It Real.
Greetings, Internet people. You're tuned in to the Keep It Real RN channel. My name is Craig, and I'll be your host. Now today I'm going to talk about agency nursing, and to be more specific, I'm going to talk about my experience with agency nursing. Now I started agency nursing because I had a friend of mine that was working full-time for a nursing agency, and he encouraged me to give it a try. Now I had been working in a hospital for about a year and a half before I did my very first agency shift. My regular job was 0.8 FTE, which is 4 8-hour evening shifts a week. And I started out picking up like 1 or 2 shifts a week through the agency. At the time, I was making $14 an hour at my regular job. And if you adjust that for inflation, that would equal $28 an hour today. Now, through the agency, I was making $24 an hour, which if you adjust that for inflation, that would be equal to $48 an hour today. As you can see, that was a significant difference in pay. When I first started working agency, I got lucky and I worked the majority of my shifts at Hennepin County Medical Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, the work there was a lot harder than at my regular job, but I was making double the pay. Now, after I had been working a few shifts at the county, the nursing supervisor would frequently come to me and ask me and offer me additional shifts and even overtime. So one day I'm back in my regular job making $14 an hour, and I'm standing in the med room thinking to myself, $14 an hour, $24 an hour. $14 an hour, $24 an hour. Now I'm standing in the med room doing the exact same thing for $14 an hour that I could be doing for $24 an hour. So I decided that it was probably best that I try to make out financially as best I can in this business. So I decided to take a chance and started working agency full-time. I didn't throw caution to the wind. I did not quit my regular job altogether, but I did go per diem so that I could work agency as much as possible. And one nice thing was that I was basically able to schedule myself at Hennepin County 1 to 2 weeks at a time. Now, there were times when Hennepin County didn't need me and I got canceled. So when I got canceled, my agency would try to find another facility for me to work in if I still desired to work that day. As an agency nurse, if I filled in at the last minute, that would translate into major brownie points, which I will talk about later on. Now, going to a new facility caused me a bit of anxiety because I did not know how to get there. I did not know where to park. I did not know where the nursing supervisor's office was. I didn't know where the unit was. And once on the unit, I didn't know where stuff was. I didn't know how they chart. I didn't know who the doctors are, and I didn't know any of the staff. Now, as a new full-time agency nurse, I had to figure out how to overcome these obstacles. And I developed survival skills and techniques on how to learn rather quickly. Now, besides working at Hennepin County Medical Center, I did some other interesting assignments that were a backup to that. Once I did a 2-week contract at the Mount Sinai Day Eye Surgery Center, and they basically did eye surgery, outpatient eye surgery, but they did have patients that could not go home after they had surgery because they did not have anybody to take care of them. So now you got to picture this, these old elderly people had surgery on one eye and they probably didn't see very well out of the other eye, so you couldn't send them home without somebody to take care of them because they're basically blind. So these patients were given accommodations for the night, and the facility, and they needed a nurse that was ACLS trained. So it would be a rent-a-doc and me on duty for maybe 1 or 2 eye patients, and that was some seriously easy money. I even did an occasional shift at a nursing home, and It was kind of a nice nursing home in St. Paul. And when I would show up at the nursing home to work, the assistant director of nurses would get the chart rack and pull charts that needed 30, 60, and 90-day Medicare reviews. And that would total about 15 or 20 charts. Now that was enough to keep me busy for 8 hours, but I did not have to pad meds, and I did not have to do any treatments. My other major responsibility for that shift was to be in the dining room during mealtime in case a resident choked. Now, what I liked about agency nursing was that I had a lot more control over my schedule than at my regular job. Of course, there were times where I was canceled and no other shifts were available. I had no PTO, so if I didn't work, I didn't get paid. So either I made myself available to work a shift I hadn't planned on working, or took the day off without pay. That is why it is important to have money in a savings account for times just like that. Now, to work agency and be able to sleep well at night, I recommend having at least 2 months worth of living expenses in a liquid savings account. Now, ideally, that number should be 6 months to make it extra safe. Since I had no PTO, I had to put extra money away for when I planned on taking time off for vacation as well. The other thing is, as an agency nurse, I did not get health insurance through my employer. However, at the time, I was able to get a Blue Cross Blue Shield policy at a pretty reasonable price. Now, bear in mind here that the cost of health insurance has skyrocketed since those days. So unless you get coverage through a spouse or a significant other, you need to do your homework and find out what an individual policy will cost you. Now, you can get coverage through the Affordable Care Act, but be aware that you will most likely pay the full amount of the premium because as an agency nurse, you'll make too much money to qualify for a subsidy, making the Affordable Care Act all not that affordable. But don't take my word for it. Check it out yourself. So plan on working at least 2 shifts a month to pay for your health insurance. The other thing is I highly recommend getting disability insurance because disability insurance will provide an income if you can't work due to an extended illness or injury. And like I said before, if you don't work, you don't get paid. The next thing I can't stress enough, and that is malpractice insurance. And I'll be doing a separate video on why nursing malpractice insurance is a must, not just for agency nurses, but for every nurse. Now, as an agency nurse, I consider it imperative to have malpractice insurance. In fact, again, I highly recommend that you have it even if you are staff at a hospital. One of the things I learned as an agency nurse is to be resourceful. And if I'd never been to a facility before, I would get there early in order to be able to orient myself to the surroundings and give myself like a self-guided tour of the unit, find out where the meds and supplies were, look at the charting system, track down the charge nurse and ask any questions I had, find the coffee, find the bathroom, and I would need to quickly establish myself as an asset rather than a liability to the nurses I would be working with. I learned not to judge a facility based on the first shift that I worked there, because the first time I went to a place, most people I encountered would not be that warm and fuzzy, so I learned not to take that personally. No matter how overwhelmed I felt during the shift, I tried to maintain an awareness of what was going on around me so I could offer help to my coworkers if they needed it. Sometimes one of the nurses in the unit would step forward and be one of my informal mentors for the day. And when that happened, that made a difficult situation much, much easier. The more times I went to a facility, the more the experience would change for the better. And after doing this for several months, I would joke and say, all I need to know is where the coffee in the bathroom is, and the rest I can deal with on an as-needed basis. So toward the end of my agency nursing stint, I had hit an extended dry spell in one winter, and I decided that it was best that I go back and get a real job. A decision that would land me in San Diego for the next couple of years. Not a bad place to spend the winter, if I might say so myself. Now, after my San Diego stint was over, I would find myself in Kansas City for a few months, working for the same agency that I worked for back in Minneapolis. Now, that agency was nationwide, which meant I could work in just about any city in the U.S. as long as I had a license for that state. Now, the few months that I was in Kansas City, I was able to pick up a lot of shifts, and I got a fair amount of OT. And during that time, I managed to pay off my car, I paid off all my student loans, and I got to experience what it was like to be debt-free. And I'll tell you, it feels pretty darn good. Now, many years later, I was a night shift unit coordinator in a busy critical care department. My duties included staffing, which involved hiring agency nurses. Now, often there were more agency nurses scheduled to work than needed due to a fluctuating patient census. So how did I decide who to keep and who to cancel? Well, I'll tell you, there were characteristics that put certain agency nurses at the top of my informal A-list. And to get repeat shifts at a facility as an agency nurse, it is important to impress the nursing supervisor, the charge nurse, and the staff, and not necessarily in that order. So while giving it some thought, I came up with a list of attributes that made for an impressive agency nurse. And I call them my 14 tips for being a successful agency nurse. And number 1 is nobody cares how you did things where you came from. Number 2, don't be a know-it-all. Number 3, if you don't have experience with a specific procedure, say so. Number 4, if you genuinely want to learn, somebody will teach you. Number 5, don't be needy. It's okay to ask questions, but learn to be resourceful and try to figure things out on your own. Number 6, if someone takes the time to help you, be sure to say thank you. Number 7, help your colleague with a turn or a boost. Number 8, if the staff does not take the initiative to talk to you, introduce yourself to them and start talking to them. Number 9, don't complain about your assignment, especially if you are new. And even if you're an established agency nurse at that facility, proceed with caution. Number 10, be flexible. The hospital did not hire you because of your priceless experience. You were hired as a Band-Aid to fix a staffing problem for the next 8 to 12 hours. Number 11, if you were hired for a certain unit and you get assigned to a different unit, don't make a scene and just go with it. Number 12, be a team player. If the staff likes working with you, you will get more shifts. Number 13, pick up an extra shift when the unit is going to be short. Remember, picking up shifts on short notice wins double the brownie points. And number 14, answer the unit's phone. Now I'm going to talk more about answering the phone here. During the off shifts, units often do not have a unit secretary, and the phone rings off the hook. So if you're near a ringing phone, pick it up and answer it. Now, I remember giving a new agency nurse a tour of the unit she was going to work in one night. We weren't in the unit more than 2 minutes when the phone rang And without skipping a beat, she picked up the phone and answered it. Now, she didn't know what to do with the call, but that was okay. The fact that she had the guts and the initiative to pick the phone up impressed the hell out of me. It really did. Because usually it takes a few shifts as a new agency nurse to become established and move up the ranks in my informal A list. But the simple act of picking up the phone put that nurse on my preferred list instantly. These 14 simple tips will help establish you as a nurse others want to work with and will result in getting more shifts and better assignments. So I hope this video was kind of helpful in giving you insight into the reality of agency nursing. And if after watching this you're still considering working for a nursing agency, I think you will probably enjoy it. Just remember, start part-time and don't quit your regular job just yet. So please rate this video and leave a comment below. If you like this video, share it with your friends. In fact, share it with your friends even if you think it sucks. Click on the subscribe button and join us as a passenger on the Keep It Real RN Express. If you have any questions, you can leave those in the comment section or send them to questions@keepitrealrn.com. Thank you for watching, and remember, keep it real. Reality of agency nursing. And if after watch Kansas City for a few months, what the f, just about work in any city in the US as long as I had a license for that state. These 14 steps into what agency nursing is all about. And if